Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I'm here with my husband, Ryan. Sorry, we filmed a few times already. He's read 3 books and I've read 8 books, and without further ado, we're gonna get into it. Why don't you start off with Pet?
Sure, so I read Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This is a story of a young trans girl who discovers a painting in her mother's house which releases a spirit to hunt monsters. They have to figure out where the monster is and discover how to expose the monster to the authorities. This was a really, really charming and sweet book. It was quite dark and grim at times, but always done in a very sensitive and quite lyrical way. The writing was really beautiful and poetic in a lot of ways. So I thought that this book was really exciting, really fun, really easy to read, and left a really deep impression on me. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, same. I gave this 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I did the same too.
Yeah, and I think that it is dark without being too dark, so it can cater to a younger YA audience as well. And the descriptions of Pet, who is like this phantasmagorical creature from another realm. Ooh.
Yes.
I would love to see a TV show or a movie based on this book.
I don't know if they could capture it, the strange way that Pet was described, this sort of almost unbearably angelic but creepy and weird.
Like old Bible angelic.
Like old Bible angelic. Yeah. Biblically accurate angel. So I read this for the magical standalone novice path prompt for a standalone book. Sure, the second one that I read for the magical readathon was a ghost or supernatural theme. So I read Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. This is the story of another trans protagonist. This is a young trans boy in a Latino community who grows up in a cemetery. As part of the community of witches and wizards, they help the spirits who have died to pass over to the next life, and they deal with that transition point between life and death. So this is the story of Yandriel, who gets his magical witch knife, or wizard knife, I guess, and the first spirit that he raises was a young boy who may have been murdered, which was then led to the story as they try to figure out what has happened to him. This book was incredibly sweet and charming. I thought that the romance was really, really well laid out, and I thought that the nature of the community that they worked in, of these brujos, was really interesting. I thought the lore was fascinating, but mostly I will remember it as just an incredibly sweet, heart-wrenching story. So I gave this 4.5 stars in the end as well, because I thought it was really quite captivating.
Yeah, same. You all know it was my favorite one from last year, so I'm not gonna harp on about it. You should just read it. And
the third one that I have read so far this month was one that I read last night. This is The Machine Stops by Ian Forster. This is a short story written in 1909 about a society where everyone lives in their own contained rooms and nobody sees anyone except through digital communication devices, and everything is done for them and they never go outside, and spends a lot of time talking about the visceral and terrifying experience of the real world, which I felt a little bit called out by. It managed to convey in 25 pages quite a lot, but I was sitting there reading it going, oh god, it's me, oh god, it's me.
It's shocking, because it was written in 1909, so we were talking about how excellent he was able to predict things.
Absolutely. I think there's the technological predictions of instantaneous video calls and Skype chats.
Do not disturb.
Do not disturb, even. And the way that people might sort of have these forums and communicate on things and share ideas and spend all of their lives commenting on everything. But to me, the biggest prediction was the psychological impact of retreating from the real world and only experiencing simulacra of the world through these digital mediations, which I found very upsetting in the current context.
In 1909. Shocking.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Excellent book. Yeah, 4 stars.
It's not a book, right? You said it's only 25 pages.
It's only 25 pages.
It's a short story.
Novella? I don't know what you would call it. Short story.
Yeah.
Very short, very interesting. I read this for the magical readathon prompt for an urban setting, because the entire sequence takes place in a city underground. I gave it 4 stars just because there's only so much you can do in 25 pages.
Okay, and now we're to the books that I read so far in September. I have 8 of them, and some of them are roastable. lukewarm, and then some of them I really loved. So we've got a really mixed selection here for you.
Tell us your hot takes.
Okay. So the first up, I wanted to start off the month because I'm reading for the Magical Readathon, which we're doing together, but also Shorty September, hosted by Pastori Time. So I wanted to start off with the shortest book on my shelves. So this is Eric by Shaun. This is extremely short. It's about a little exchange student named Eric who goes to study with a family in Australia, and they're talking about how they can't really communicate that well and if Eric has had a good time, and it was just really sweet and charming. So I read this for Shorty September, Where You Live, because Shaun is an Australian author, and then also the Magical Readathon Novice Path for Standalone. So this was a short, sweet, like 20-page little thing to kick off the month. Next, after that, I wanted to pick up something that was gonna be like easy, I guess. So I did read An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa.
Yay, she did it!
And I don't want to say it's your typical YA fantasy, but I will say that the pacing and the writing style and like the ease of readability for me was in typical YA fantasy fashion, which is no bad thing. Like, it was so nice to just like down this entire book in like 2 days because, you know, it's easy to read and it's exciting. So if you don't know, this is about like dark academia setting where it's a war school. We're following two main characters. One is the best warrior student in the school, and he's actually thinking of deserting when his paths cross with a young scholar rebel who has decided to infiltrate the school as a maid for the commander of the school, and their paths kind of intertwine. I'm sure everyone knows what this book is about. But yeah, overall I gave it 4 stars. I don't have really anything bad to say about it. I found it immensely readable, and I read it for the Magical Readathon character creation province, Dark Academia. So this is making my character live under the mountains in that dark like library labyrinth. So well worth it. So after that, I was feeling pretty good, so I was like, okay, let's try something that might be a bit of a slower pace. So I picked up Meaty Pleasures by Lavin, who is a Mexican writer, and this was translated from the Spanish. It's a series of short stories, and I must say, this is the first roast. Welcome to the first roast. I DNF'd it, and I don't recommend it. Let me tell you why. Okay, so there's 12 short stories, and I read 4 of them. The first one was quite like lukewarm. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars. It's about a woman who's being seduced by a man through her senses, so through food and wine.
That seems fair.
Nice, right? But this series of short stories is blurbed as like super erotic and super like seductive. But then the next 3 stories I read were 1, boring, and 2 had either incest or cheating. Yeah, so like, no thanks. And like the nail in the coffin to this was that the actual like sex scenes were really cringy. Oh. Like, have you ever read a romance book where it feels like maybe that person hasn't had that much experience or something? Like, isn't it 40-Year-Old Virgin when they're like, what do boobs feel like? And they're like bags of sand. Like, I was like, wow, this is awkward. It could be a translation thing, or it could just be a author thing. So either way, I don't recommend this. Huge DNF. All right, after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick up a thriller. Man, was I wrong. And we are to my second roast. I read them back to back. So this is A Luminous Republic by Barba, who is a writer from Spain. So this was translated from Spanish.
Beautiful cover.
You know what?
I'm trying to find positives
I know. I have so much regret about this because I was so sure I was gonna love it. I bought it in hardback. I I never buy anything new, and I never buy anything in hardback. But I thought I was gonna love it. I thought I was gonna like just...
This is your cautionary tale.
Yeah, this... No. Okay, so, this is blurbed as like 32 children come out of the South American jungle, infiltrate this city, and chaos ensues, and they start like killing people. Right, okay. So it sounds dark, sounds right up my alley. However, this was so slow and so boring. So this is from the point of view of one of the police officers who was investigating the case, like many years ago. So one, the action isn't immediate. Two, you're seeing it through his lens, which like, we don't like him. He's not a sympathetic narrator. And three, he's so pretentious. Like he relates like what he thinks people must have been thinking to like class of works of literature, and like just I hated being in his head. So overall, I just found this like really boring. I could not really get into it. It was a slog to read this, and it's only like 170 pages, but it took me so long.
Days and days and days.
Like weeks, so. I was reading other books, like lapping this book while I was reading it, but I refused to DNF it because I bought it hardcover, and damn it, I was gonna finish this book. Yeah, so I don't recommend it. I don't know what the other reviewers like were reading, because like their reviews are like, it's amazing. I'm like, no, it's not. It's so bad. And I will say like the only thing that I really did like was the discovery of the Luminous Republic was beautiful. But that was like the one shining gem in this whole book. It could have been like a short story easily. That would have been better. And just like throw away the whole police detective. Just throw the whole just throw the whole man away. Yeah, so also this is shelved as horror, and it is not horror. It's not creepy. The action is so diluted that it's more literary fiction. So everyone who's shelving it as horror,
lies.
Shame on you.
Lies.
So I ended up giving this 2 stars. Like, don't read it. Don't pick it up. Okay, so then after that, I was like, I'm struggling. I've had 2 that were like
2 in a row.
Really hard to get through, and I wanted something easy and right up my genre alley. So I picked up Hatchet, which is a Canadian release, which is about a boy who he was going to visit his father, and suddenly the plane that he's in crashes, and it leaves him alone in the Canadian wilderness, and he has to learn how to survive with basically just a hatchet. And this is middle grade, and I found it immensely enjoyable. It's not enjoyable, he's like suffering. But
suffering could be enjoyable.
But the book itself was good, and I gave 4 stars. I think that this is like probably a really good middle grade book. It's probably why it's read in middle grade.
Yeah, I read it in middle grade.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this, and yeah, it was perfect because it was like lickety split. I read it super fast. And also, I will just mention, there are 2 scenes which I think are a bit much depending on the age of the child that you're going to have them read this book. There's a attempted suicide scene, and then a scene where he sees a corpse. So just know that if you're going to like just hand this book to your kid, like make sure that you're fine with them reading that. But I found it very enjoyable, and I gave it 4 stars. So after that, I was feeling pretty good, and I wanted to pick up something by a favorite author of mine, Nnedi Okorafor, and this is Remote Control. So I had been wanting to read this for a very long time, and I thought that it was perfect for Shorty September because it is so short. So this actually covers Shorty September set in another country because it's set in Ghana, and then also the Magical Readathon Novice Path for standalone. So this is following Fatima, who's also known as Sankofa, or dubbed Remote Control because she glows green.
Cool.
Yeah. So she watches a star fall from the heavens and goes to investigate, and she finds a box with a seed in it, and the seed imbues her with powers. So she has the power to kill other people or machines or animals if she so chooses. And she also, like, if she touches any machine, she kills it. And unfortunately, when she first gets her powers, she kills, like, everyone in the town because she can't control it. So then she sets off on a walking adventure from there to find out, like, her purpose. And it sounds really interesting, but honestly, I was lukewarm about this, and I gave it 3 stars.
It's very disappointing.
I know. Yeah, so it's the lowest rated Okorafor that I've read. I think it was just too short, and the story was very meandering, like, as she's wandering through the towns, and I wasn't sure if, like, we had, like, a true resolution in the end. So you're kind of just following this character as she's walking around. That's it. At the end. I gave it 3 stars because Okorafor's writing style and imagination is, of course, like, top shelf, brilliant, but I wasn't sure that the plot achieved what it was going for, or, like, the purpose of it. So unfortunately that one was a 3. I'm pretty lukewarm. So then after that, I read a NetGalley arc I had, which is To Summon Nightmares by J.K. Pendragon, who is a, yeah, awesome pen name.
Great pen name.
Who is a non-binary, bisexual Canadian author. And I think they smashed it out of the park with this one, honestly. As you know, I've been trying to read more, like, non-binary, gender-fluid authors this year, and this is definitely one of my favorites of the ones that I've read. So I read this for the Magical Readathon Novice Path Ghost Supernatural theme prompt, as well as Shorty September set in another country, because this is set in Ireland. So the only thing I will say is that the blurb for this book is slightly misleading, because the blurb says it's about one character, but the first, like, third of the book is about 2 completely separate characters. So I will give you an updated blurb right now. So basically, we're following a young man in high school named Niall. I don't know, I'll put the spelling here and then, yes. And his boyfriend slash best friend has an abusive father. So he decides as a witch that he is going to summon a demon, make a deal with the demon, and get, like, rid of the father, or, like, bind the father so that he doesn't abuse his boyfriend anymore. As you can imagine, things go horribly wrong, and the demon is much more wily, obviously, and actually the boyfriend makes a terrible decision for both of them and gives them, like, immense power. This, like, dark magic ministry hunts them down, kidnaps them, tortures them, and then the blurb on the back of the book starts, where we're following Neil, who is, like, in the future, he has escaped and he just wants to live a quiet life in very remote Ireland. And then the other person we're following is Cohen, who is an ex-Irish celebrity who's looking to kind of escape because after he transitioned, people have been giving him a lot of flack, and he's also trying to figure out, like, his own self-identity and write his new book. So their paths intertwine and things go from there. So obviously there are a lot of queer elements in here. We have a trans man main character, there's gay rep, there's bisexual rep, there is mental health rep in here. It also gets quite dark and gory, which I love, I don't mind. And I think that it wrapped up, like, really well. So yeah, I gave this 4 stars, and I'm really pleased and thankful to NetGalley and J.K. Pendragon. If you haven't read them, check them out. Awesome name, and I do recommend this book. And then the last one that I finished last night. This is I'm Not Scared by Niccolo Ammaniti, who is an Italian writer, so it's translated from the Italian. So I read this for the Magical Readathon Novice Path thriller mystery prompt, as well as the Shorty September translated, because it's Italian, set in another country, because it's in Italy, and then also pulse racing, which I didn't know it would be until I was reading it last night, and I was like, I can't breathe, what's happening? What's happening to my sweet baby? So this book starts out one way and takes, like, a severe left turn. So we're set in the 1980s in the Italian countryside. There's a heat wave, and all the adults are staying inside, and of course all the kids are like going out and being kids, like biking around, playing games, soccer, board games, going through the fields of wheat, just kind of like, no, for real, they do go through the wheat fields, but they're kind of just like all over the place, like kids, right? And they stumble across an abandoned house, and the person who loses the bet that they were racing to the house is Michelle, who's the main character. And so they tell him he has to climb and go through the abandoned house, but it's kind of falling down, so it's dangerous. And he finds something there that he doesn't share with them, and it becomes his secret. But it's a secret that the adults in the town know, and it's very dangerous. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But like, Michelle is such like a sweet baby.
Aww.
Is such a good, nice, sweet boy, like such a good egg. He's 9 years old, and he is just like such a good egg, and the situation is so bad. And the ending was perfect. I gave this 4.5 stars. It's on my best of the year. I really recommend it if you're looking for a translation, if you're looking for something dark. It's very good. And it felt like a great note to end like this first half of September on. So, yeah, those are all the books that we read. I'm feeling really good about it because I think both of us are... You've done 3 out of 5 for the Magical Readathon, and I've done 4 out of 5 for the Magical Readathon. So, I don't think we'll have any problems.
No, we're going to finish.
Hopefully.
For sure.
And we will be back with our wrap-up part 2 later on. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you very much for watching.
And we will see you in another video soon. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.